In 2008, something astonishing happened. At the Olympics in Beijing, a little-known boxer from Italy scored wins over both America's Deontay Wilder and Ukraine's Alexander Usyk. As we now know, the two losers would go on to have very successful careers, each holding at least one belt. There are even talks of Usyk being the greatest pound-for-pound boxer of all time. But what was the fate of the man that had bettered them both? Well, his career panned out entirely differently. The boxer in question was the Italian Clemente Russo. A fighter hailing from Caserta, he had actually won gold at the 2007 World Amateur Boxing Championships prior to the Beijing Games, before securing a silver medal at the London 2012 Olympics, losing to Alexander Usyk in the heavyweight category. Surely this moment marked a suitable point to move into the professional ranks. With an evidently high skill level, a whole country behind him, and a marketable appearance, one would have thought Russo was an ideal candidate to become a future boxing star. Yet prior to the London Olympics, he made his intentions completely clear.
Mi sono prefisso altri 2 o 3 anni di pugilato, quindi le mie ultime cartucce le voglio sparare tutte.
Instead, Russo would opt to remain as an amateur permanently, whilst joining the Italian police force. He'd go on to compete in the 2016 Olympics, yet more notably, he would contest in a total of 483 rounds in 130 amateur bouts. The man evidently just loved boxing, retiring in 2021, but what makes the decision not to turn pro more fascinating is that Russo competed for years in the World Boxing Series. This was essentially a competition which allowed amateurs to box in a professional style format, but retain the ability to compete in the Olympics. Russo was effectively making himself vulnerable to the constant risk of CTE, yet received little compensation for his troubles and possibly missed out on millions of dollars. Meanwhile, the gold and silver super heavyweight medal winner in Beijing and London was also Italian, namely Roberto Cammarelle. His career would end in a similar fate, opting to join the Italian state police force. It turns out that the Italian government routinely offers their amateur boxers well-paid jobs in the police to incentivize them to remain on the boxing national amateur team and tempt them away from the pros. There's persistent rumblings that Cammarelle was routinely contending with back problems, primarily a herniated disc, which could have stifled his movement in the pros. But regardless, both fighters still opted to take the safer option. There has been considerable debate in forums, with people speculating how the two Italian boxers would have fared amongst the professionals, and ultimately we'll never truly know how they would have performed. Yet it does seem a shame that it never happened. In this video, I want to examine how boxing is perceived in Italy and uncover why there are so few top Italian boxing pros. If you enjoyed this content, then feel free to leave a like and subscribe. Now let's delve into it. The first boxing match in the modern sense was held in Verona on May 1st, 1909, with Pietro Boine of Genoa becoming the first Italian domestic heavyweight champion. Boine would go on to found the National Boxing Club in 1912 in Milan, leading to a wave of interest in the sport. By 1923, Italy had their first heavyweight European title through Erminio Spalla. The country's first heavyweight world title was then secured by Primo Carnera in 1933. In my mind, Carnera is probably still Italy's most famous boxer, which is crazy due to him being dead for almost 60 years. During the 1950s and 60s, there were a few notable champions like Fernando Azzori, Aurelio Bolognese, Carmelo Bossi, and Sandro Lopopolo.
Antonio Margarete.
Ancora?
Margarete.
But aside from this period, the list of notables is few and far between, aside from Francesco Damiani in the 1980s. But if you consider the Italian diaspora as a whole, primarily concentrating on those who emigrated to North America, the list of champions is staggering. Rocky Marciano, Ray Mancini, Arturo Gatti and Paul Malignaggi to name a few. Even one of Britain's best has Italian heritage.
The Calzaghes have never forgotten their roots. Joe couldn't wait to see grandfather Giuseppe and presented him with his world title belt.
There's evidently a natural affinity for the sport within those of Italian extract. Since the turn of the 21st century, the Italian boxing picture has looked fairly bleak. Its last world champion was former WBA regular super middleweight champion Giovanni De Carolis back in 2016, but you have to go back to 2007 to find the one beforehand, when Silvio Branco won the WBA world light heavyweight title. To add to this, an Italian in a Reddit post stated that the sport's popularity was incredibly low in the country, and interestingly noted a widespread belief that boxers are fascist and violent people. But I'm not entirely convinced by this argument for a couple of reasons. Firstly, Giovanni De Carolis' fight against Daniele Scardina in May 2022 drew a sold-out crowd of 5,000 people at the Milan Arena, a very respectable number. As Malinaghi would later point out, the demand is still evident, and Matchroom regularly holds shows there on a consistent basis. There's even young promising amateurs coming through the system, with Giovanna Marchesi and Remo Salvati both securing bronze medals in the 2024 European Championships. So the combination of a solid amateur program alongside a decent enough pro boxing following, you'd expect more competent professional boxers to emerge. On the point regarding boxing being viewed as violent and fascist in nature, Italy is literally home to one of the most brutal sports around.
Non è facile scendere in piazza perché non è un giochino per tutti, è un giochino molto duro, dove ci sono scontri fisici, dove c'è una bella preparazione.
Walking to a sporting event known as Calcio Storico. This has been on my bucket list, so I'm fucking pumped.
This blend of football, rugby and bare-knuckle boxing surely refines an individual's footwork, striking ability, power and defensive work. Even ex-boxers have flocked to it due to the skills required. And with many Italian teenagers opting to enter into the sport, it effectively represents a pool of tough, skillful strikers who would likely make excellent boxers. Maybe this is wishful thinking from me, but you can see where I'm coming from. I first saw this sport in a Netflix documentary, and it looks completely insane. Let's say if this video gets 20,000 likes, I'll try and apply to play in one of the games. Why not? On top of the fascist rhetoric, boxing is being used for good means in the south of Italy. There's a great Vice video on how boxing is being used to keep children from joining the mafia through providing them with direction and an alternative avenue to crime. If Italians can continue to set up youth boxing programs and encourage greater participation amongst youngsters, I'm sure we'll see stronger Italian amateur and professional boxers being produced. Football obviously dominates the country, but boxing still has a place, I feel. But what do you guys think? Italy have ultimately had 14 world champion boxers in different weight categories, which is very impressive. Can they become a force to be reckoned with in the ring? Leave your comments below. Please consider liking and subscribing. Thank you for the support. Cheers.